to go in that directions, and what kind of future in the next generations and 4 generations to come, what will it be like? You hear a debate about this and about that, and you find that those people that continue to support those kind of policies and those kind of government and those kind of leadership, those kind of fatherhood that only thinks about himself and his immediate children, but they don't think about all the children and all the families that are entrusted into their care. What kind of a father are you? What kind of a father are you? The Lord administers to us, and He says us an example of a reflection to come back and see what is it that you're doing wrong, that you may do right, so that things will be right for your people, for your nation, for your country. What kind of thing are you putting in place? People that make decisions to engage in behaviors that do not consider about how it will affect the economy of the entire nation. If it's going to give us money right now and they will go into it, what kind of father are you? One of those kind of father that think about how much money you are going to gain from this investment, from that investment, from this policy, from that policy, from this action, from that actions, but you do not think about how it will affect other people around you. And even after you were gone, for your children and your children's children. What kind of father are you? Everybody now is talking about the debate about gun and about this and about the shooting and the mass shooting, and I have been talking about this for more than 10 years. The shooting that is going on, the killing, and everybody says it's about gun and it's about gun. Does a gun have a hand to pull the trigger? Does gun have a leg to walk up to a place to shoot? They don't want to address what the issue and the American people. You must pay attention to all the things that are hidden behind. That nobody wants to talk about the truth. And I had a chance to look at the United States Senate Finance Committee report on mental health. And then when you go in that report, you will see an alarm that has been raised, but nobody wants to address it. That a part of $2.3 trillion that are spent in healthcare, how much percentage of that is spent on the mental health of the American people? They want to see the gun that killed people, but they don't want to see who's carrying the gun and who's doing the shooting. And they don't want to think about their health care. That ever since in the 20 years that I have been in this business, the expenditure of the United States on the mental health of the Americans have never exceeded 5%. 95% goes to all the other types of health care. But the mental health that controls every action of man gets less than 5%. In the Senate Finance Committee report, and what it talks about is the 63% of the black people that have no access to health care. Nobody talks about that. The 65% of Hispanics that have no access to health care. Nobody talks about that. The 80% of Asians that do not have access to healthcare. Nobody talks about that. Maybe cultural, and of course, it is cultural, the stigma, it may be other personal things, and because of the way they feel about their personal feelings and perceptions about mental health. But what are the actions to address the mental health of the Americans? Less than 5%. Yes, it is okay to say that maybe that it has increased from 2006 to 2015 from $8.1 billion or $0.6 billion and all the way down to increase to $212 billion. But what of the percentage of increment in terms of the population increase, in terms of the number of availability of services? Even here in the mental health, you remember in the COVID, with what COVID has caused is tremendous. And upon this altar, we have cried unto the Lord to give us a way out, asking for help for the states to be given more money. And I am not saying this to fault the actions of the states. Neither am I saying this, but I'm talking about what kind of a father you are. A father that does not care about the mental health of their own children. You go to school is a war between the health department and the Department of Education over allocation resources. And then you come out in the community and in the home, there is a way we have, even for example in the state of Maryland, hiring someone, and this is not an attack against, because they are doing a wonderful job down there, but I am talking about the need to address a major concern and issue across the nation in the way healthcare financing and funding is available. They talk about people go out and lose their mind and commit all kinds of atrocities. Nobody wants to talk about that. People that probably never knew anything about mental health, now they have access to things that they never used to have access. Maybe where they came from. For example, if you are from Nigeria, you will not have access to gun because it's banned. But if you come here, you have access to gun. Then if you don't get help, if you don't get treated, it's a problem. There is discrimination. You're talking about what percentage of the amount is being given, for example, onto depression alone, compared to all the other things, all the other diseases, the neck pains and the pains of the body. Oh, how much is given into diabetes? How much is given into each individual disorder? But how much is given into the totality of the mental health of the American people? Nobody talks about that. How do we finance and give money? Instead, there are discriminations against people who are sick, people who have major depression, for example, but certain conditions, certain services are not available to them. So they pick one because they want to save money. Nobody forced that they don't have enough money to be able to pay for the services. But there are people that cause some of this problem, and even in those, the Hollywood, those that are promoting aggression, those are promoting violence, those that are promoting and turning the children into killers. A lot of children have lost their interpersonal skills, ability to relate to one another, because they only know how to stay in their video game. They don't know how to interact with one another. They don't know appropriate response to each other in social, leisure, and recreational activities. They don't know how to sit in the class and be able to how to receive feedback. People, when you speak to them, they get angry because they don't know how to handle that. And so there are so many nuances to this that nobody talks about. And there is no allocation of money. Instead, if you ask for authorizations, for example, the authorizations don't get approved. They wait until after the small providers are already paying out of them, borrowing money to pay for the cost of it. Because by the time you get the authorization, you're already owing, and by the time it's denied, you don't get your money back.